I am Sarah Patnod. I'm one of the co-founders of Hate Free Decatur. We are a new community grassroots organization that has rallied around the idea of removing this monument to white supremacy and racial bigotry from the square. So we have already presented to the County Commission over 2,000 signatures calling for this monument's removal. And we know that they are currently delaying an action. So we are going to be announcing a march this weekend on Sunday at 6 p.m. We will be gathering at the Beacon Municipal Plaza at 105 Electric to gather together, to speak, and to hear others talk. We'll be marching over here to the monument. We'll have another panel of speakers calling for this monument's removal and for the end of the white supremacist systems in Decatur and DeKalb County. And we are calling for the Commission to take action. So we have several speakers here today who are partnering with us for this march, and I'd like to turn it over to them.
All right. I'm Teresa Hardy, president of DeKalb NAACP. And today, the NAACP is pleased to stand with all the people of goodwill who are now taking a bold and stand against hate and symbols of hate. One symbol of hate stands in the heart of our beloved county, and that symbol is the monument to the Confederacy that stands in Decatur Square. One generation ago, a Southern elected official stood in the way of progress and proclaimed segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Today, segregation is against the law, and that the elected official is a footnote in history. In the generation, the DeKalb County Board of Commissioners has the honorable opportunity to take a stand and proclaim by their action: no hate symbols on county public property today, no hate symbols on county public property tomorrow, no hate symbols on county public property ever. The board can do this by courageously and justly doing what is right by voting to remove the monument to the so-called Confederate States of America. We stand here today united in an effort to urge the DeKalb Board of Commissioners to seize this moment in DeKalb history, and even in Georgia history, to lead DeKalb out of the dark, archaic, and racist past of hatred into the marvelous light of the 21st century. The NAACP DeKalb proudly takes this stand because we believe it is just, it is American, and it is time. Thank you, and I look forward to everyone participating with us on Sunday at 6 p.m.
Attorney Gerald Briggs, Executive Board Member of the Georgia NAACP. And we are proud to stand with Hate Free Decatur. We're proud to stand with the NAACP DeKalb County and the Beacon Hill NAACP in marching on Sunday at 6 p.m. to send a strong message not only to the City Council here in the City of Decatur, not only to the County Commission for DeKalb County, but also to the state of Georgia, that Georgia is no longer a place for hate. We will not be a bastion of hate, and we need to remove all symbols of the Confederacy now, starting with this monument that was erected for the lost cause of the Confederacy. Let's be clear that white supremacy and all symbols that reinforce white supremacy have no place in Georgia. So we are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with people of goodwill and good conscience in marching and demanding justice and the removal of all symbols of hate and symbols of the Confederacy. Thank you.
I'm Attorney Mawali Davis, the president of the Beacon Hill chapter of the NAACP. I have with me some of our young people and some of our members who are present, and we say very clearly that on this Sunday at 6 p.m. we will march, and we hope that young people like these teenagers will come out, because this is really about them. What this monument does is memorialize people who were committed to the enslavement of African people. And so instead of this monument continuing to exist, there should be a memorial for people of African descent who suffered one of the greatest crimes against humanity, and that is American chattel slavery. And so we're very clear that anytime you memorialize people who were committed to the continued subjugation, rape, murder, and enslavement of a people, then you are lifting up the wrong symbols. You're lifting up hate. You're lifting up the oppression of people who our ancestors prayed that we would have a day where we could be free. Yet this is a reminder, an attempt in the Jim Crow era to maintain and intimidate black people who wanted to come into this courthouse and vote, wanted to come into this courthouse and be jury members. And this is a symbol, an attempt to intimidate. And it should be removed. It should be removed immediately. And we're thankful that these young people are with us and that Hate-Free Decatur has called us all together to work together as a community so that we can continue to fight the good fight, the right fight, and that we are on the right side of history. We know that those who oppose the enslavement of African people were on the right side of history. At the time, they were not considered on the right side of history by some, but we know now they were on the right side of history. And so we're asking that the county commission, as well as the city commissioners, stand on the right side of history and stand with us in removing this symbol of white supremacy that continues to hang over our community, our city, and our county.
How you doing? I'm Mario Bembry. I am the president of Teens in Action over at the Decatur Housing Authority. I am also a junior at Decatur High and a Move On Ready student at Georgia Piedmont. And I would just like to say that I am one of the active young teens who is out here ready to work, and I'm also trying to recruit other young teens who should be ready to work and to stand together with me. And I would just be at the high school and I would be with my Teens in Action members trying to recruit them and get everybody out because we are the future and we are now.
If we have questions for the group, we can take them now. If you have individual questions, we can stay as long as the members can stay.
What do you want to happen to the monuments if and when it's removed?
I think the rightful place for this monument would be in a museum. People are arguing that this is their heritage, and the best place for someone's heritage is in a museum. We believe that that is the appropriate course of action. We are proposing that. It is able to be done under the current law, Official Code of Georgia 50-3-1B2 provides that this monument can be removed for its protection or preservation. So when you hear elected officials saying they need to punt for more legislation, it's already codified. They need to have the stomach and the gumption to do the right thing. And it starts here in the bastion of progressive thought, the city of Decatur.
What is the historic value of this statue to be in a museum?
So the purpose of monuments in general is to commemorate, to glorify, to hold up on pedestals the things that we think are valuable. So that's why this monument was put here, because they wanted to hold up white supremacy. They wanted to celebrate Jim Crow, and they wanted to celebrate the Reconstruction where they took back the burgeoning political power from free blacks. So if people want to keep this monument as a symbol of Jim Crow and a symbol of all the wrong that the South has done to the people that were freed after slavery, we support that. But the thing is that this monument currently, where it stands, is a symbol of intimidation, it's a symbol of hatred, and allowing it to stay in this place makes it impossible to reinterpret this appropriately within the Jim Crow context. So if people want to save this as a historical marker of Jim Crow, we support that. But leaving it here where it is right now only serves to keep those systems of Jim Crow in place.
Why do you believe it was put there for Jim Crow?
We have direct evidence provided by the DeKalb History Center that this monument was placed here specifically at what they called the seat of government. It was put here in 1908. That's only 2 years after the Atlanta race riots, where dozens of black men were beaten to death in the streets of Atlanta because of rumors in a newspaper that white women were being raped by black men. Of course, we know that this was not the only time that that had happened to black Georgians. This monument went up in 1908. That's the same year that Georgia voters passed legislation to keep black people from being able to vote at all for the next 60 years until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And we still are struggling against voter suppression today. So this monument also went up less than a decade before the Ku Klux Klan was reborn on Stone Mountain. Of course, that is the biggest monument to white supremacy. It's currently here in DeKalb County, and we are asking the commission to also take a look at what they can do there. But there is absolutely no doubt that the reason why this monument sits where it does today in front of the old DeKalb courthouse is because it was a symbol to let black people in DeKalb County know what their place was. That they had a moment of freedom during Reconstruction, and that it had been redeemed by taking it back for the white supremacists. They were celebrating the lynchings and mob violence against black people. They were celebrating the lack of voter rights power, which we know is the basis of our civil society. And they were celebrating the fact that they could tell the black people in DeKalb County that we are still in control even after slavery.
Moali, as a black person, and if you guys want to chime in too, what went through your mind and heart as you walked by this monument? I mean, does it intimidate you?
For me, it's an insult to my ancestors. It's an absolute insult to think of what my grandfather, who was in Villa Rica, Georgia, and my folks that are from Alabama and Mississippi, all of what my ancestors went through, and then we're told to forget slavery. We're constantly, black people are told you should forget about slavery, yet we should memorialize the people who were committed to enslaving you, and memorialize the people who would fight a war to keep you enslaved. So those things are just, they're incongruent. And we can't allow that to be the message for these young people. They have to know that what we're fighting for is the tearing down of white supremacy, not just symbolically, but the systems that continue to lead to mass incarceration, that lead to police brutality, that lead to people being killed in the streets of Charlottesville. And so for me, this is an insult to my ancestors in the deepest way, for it to continue to stand. And what's even more troubling is that we are at the seat of one of the most affluent African-American, predominantly African-American counties in the entire country, and it remains here. And so that says something not only about the consciousness of those who put it here, but it says something about the consciousness of our folk who are elected officials right now today that we have demonstrated our support for through voting. And so they've got to get this right. They have to redeem the memory of our ancestors by removing this and not allowing it to stand, and continue to send a message that somehow those that would want to maintain slavery were right, that was a just cause in some form or fashion. It makes absolutely no sense for that to continue to remain as it is.
Does anybody else want to comment on that? I mean, does it hurt your heart every time you look at it?
Well, let me say this. As someone who grew up in DeKalb County from birth to 12 years old, my dad owned a florist on Glenwood, and to know this county and to love this county, this is a true disgrace. And as Maoli just said, for our elected officials to stand back and say that they can't take action is a slap in the face to all good conscious people of DeKalb County. We are a county that is so diverse, that is so talented, that is the bastion of progressive thought, that we cannot have a symbol like this erected in our county and stand by idly. So again, we're calling on all of our elected officials. Yes, it hurts me to my heart that my father had to look at this symbol. And it seriously hurts me to my heart that my daughter has to look at this symbol and ask the question, Daddy, why is this still here? What is the lost cause? What does it mean that their cause was just? Their cause was not just. They were traitors. They were seditious, treasonous traitors who were put down in an armed rebellion. That's what this Confederacy was. That's what it will be. And this monument deserves only one place, and that is in a museum removed from the seat of power, because this is the old courthouse. But the new courthouse is right there. That's right. Justice is being served in that building as we speak right now. And what does it say? That no more than 100 yards, this symbol still stands. So we're calling on our elected officials, do your job. Remove this symbol of hate.
Why do you think the elected officials are reluctant to move forward on that?
You want to go? Unfortunately, I think that it is, as Gerald said, it's a matter of of will and courage. One of the things that we don't talk about very often when we talk about politics anymore, or when we talk about leadership, is we don't talk about courage. Courage is essential to anything that has been achieved progressive in this country or around the world. And unfortunately, the courage and the moral fortitude that's necessary to make this happen hasn't been demonstrated. No one has stepped up because they are afraid of potential backlash. I think the other thing that's significant is that as we march from the Beacon Hill Municipal Plaza, Beacon Hill was the historic African American community in the city of Decatur. It was Beacon Hill that when the Klan came here first, they would go and march through Beacon Hill, and the Ku Klux Klan would march through and then come back here and have their rallies here on the courthouse steps. And so it's all connected, and that's why it's so important that we began at Beacon Hill, where black folk were able to gather together and create community and defend themselves against that kind of white supremacist aggression, and then come here as the ancestors. Now we are the inheritance of that progressive movement towards changing the way the city of Decatur and DeKalb County is. So we're looking forward to our young people coming out, as well as our allies across all different respective gender, race, religion, faith-based. We just know that people are going to come and come strong because this is the right thing. And Hate Free Decatur has raised up a banner, and we're all moving towards that banner. And that's a banner of removing this kind of white supremacy legacy in our county.
Do we have any other questions for the group?
Can I get a one-on-one with you?